here are the 15 villains that are currently out. Obviously, we have the 3 coming out very soon in the Despicable Plots. So number 15 for me is Mother Gothel. I really do not enjoy playing as her. She's very difficult to win in my opinion, and here are some of the reasons why. So every time with Rapunzel, at the end of each turn, you have to move her one step closer to Corona, and the objective that Mother Gothel has is to start her turn with at least 10 trust. Now, if Rapunzel is at Corona when your turn ends, then instead of moving her one step farther because there's no other ones there, you would then lose a trust. And there's a couple things you can do to get trust, but it's really, really hard to do. One of the best things is probably the Stabbington brothers, placing them here, which moves Rapunzel back, and then you can also use them to defeat her. And so you can effectively move them twice per each of these cards. And then I found that the hairbrush is one of the most successful cards, so you want to make sure that you get that out early, because if you can play it or move it to Rapunzel's location, you get a trust, so you can rack up some trust pretty fast with that. Okay, so Mother Gothel took the number 15 slot. So now to number 14, which is Cruella de Vil, also from the Perfectly Wretched set. I also think that Cruella de Vil is pretty difficult to play as. She has to start her turn with at least 99 captured puppies, so you have to get these puppy tokens onto the board and then use Jasper, Horace, or other cards to be able to capture the puppies and get them into your captured puppy spot right here below the board. So one of the difficult things about it is that Jasper and Horace are your only allies. So if you get faded a lot and they're at the top, you're going to have to use Jasper and Horace to defeat the heroes, but then you can't use them to capture the puppies. Some things like Fireplace Poker, and there's some other ones that can help bring you Jasper and Horace back or keep them in play, but that's one of the big difficulties that is with those ones. Okay, on to number 13. We've got Ursula. So my biggest problem with Ursula is the fact that the lock location is always on one of these two. Now in this picture you see it on both, but it's always only on one of them. But it starts in the palace, and then every time you play change form, it will move back and forth. And so unlike other villains where once you get this certain card, the location is unlocked and you can use it for the rest of the time, this one, there's always one that's locked, which makes it really, really difficult to be able to do everything that you need to do. In addition, hers doesn't have Vanquish, it's binding contracts, which can be a little bit hard to understand, but the crown and the trident is what she's going for, and so you have to do all of that while having a locked location, which in my opinion makes it really, really difficult. Okay, on to number 12. We've got Maleficent. Now, I think hers is fairly easy to understand, and that's one of the reasons why it's not my favorite, is because everybody can see what your goal is, and as you get the curses out, it's really easy for them to gauge how close you are to winning, and I've seen it where as soon as you get close, then people can start fading you a ton, and her fate deck is pretty awful towards her, and so they can get rid of some of your curses pretty easily and put you back quite a bit. The Raven card will help you a lot if you can get it out early. You can do an extra action every turn that you are at the Raven's location, so that's pretty helpful. Okay, we're almost through the bottom 5, so we're getting on to number 11 right now, which is the Evil Queen. So hers is also very different. She also doesn't have a Vanquish action. Instead, she has to use the Take a Bite card to get rid of the heroes. And to take a bite, she has to use the poison, which she does using this brew poison action that is only in the Evil Queen's realm. So she plays the brew poison action when she's on this. Sorry, it's not a card, you just do the action. And she takes poison from her power supply and puts it here, and that now becomes poison. It's not used as power for the rest of the game. And then when you play the Take a Bite, you have to get rid of poison. So if it was for Snow White and there were no other things in the realm, it would just be 4. You would have to have 4 poison and the Take a Bite in order to get Snow White. One of the reasons why I don't like this one that much is the fate deck is also really awful towards the Evil Queen. As you can see, Snow White gets +1 strength for every other hero in the realm, so you can imagine if you get a bunch of the 7 dwarfs out, then she gets really high on the poison scale, and it's really hard to get rid of her. You also have to get these 4 ingredients to unlock this location before you can do any of the defeating of Snow White in order to win. Okay, so there were my bottom 5, and up here you've got the 10 villains that are left. We're now into the middle section of the ranking 15 villains, on to number 10. So number 10 is the Queen of Hearts. Now remember, this is my list of favorites, not in terms of difficulty. In my opinion, Queen of Hearts is one of the easiest to win with, and I think that's one of the things that I don't like about it as much. It feels like her Fate deck is way too easy, and you can try to Fate her a bunch and it doesn't do much to affect her, which can be, in my opinion, really frustrating for everybody else who's playing when it seems like Queen of Hearts has kind of that unfair advantage. She just has to get out these card guards and then turn them into wickets. There are actually 8 of them, so it's pretty easy to find those, and then she has to take the shot. So it's pretty simple to understand, pretty easy to win with, and it just is not the most fun in my opinion, and that's why she's ranking on the number 10 spot for me. Okay, now we're getting into number 9, Prince John. So Prince John is actually, he can be fun to play with. It's kind of one of my biggest problems with it is that you have to start your turn with 20 power. And it's really fun to spend power and not that fun to just leave it sitting there. And so it's kind of hard to have to do that. But he does have some pretty cool stuff like the Warrant. There's 3 of them, and so you can actually get them on these 3 locations, and you get 2 power if a hero is played there. Greed, it's fairly common that another player will have 6 or more power. You can gain 3 power pretty easily with that. One thing you got to look out for with Prince John is Robin Hood. Every time that you get power, if Robin Hood's in there, it's reduced by 1. So like if you went to this location or this location on your turn, you would actually get 0 power, which is kind of awful. So if Robin Hood gets in there, you really want to get rid of him as quickly as possible. Okay, on to number 8, we've got Scar. So Scar has to get 15 strength in the succession pile. It's pretty easy to do, but at the same time, it's another one where people can really easily gauge where you're at, and so they can Fate you and use things like Hakuna Matata to bring some of these characters back, Prophecy and Rafiki Stick to add to them to make it even harder. The one thing that I have that's going for Scar is that in some terms, fating you is actually helpful because it helps get the people out so then you can defeat them and put them in your succession pile. His kind of, for me, seems like it's more of a middle of the road. He's kind of fun to play as, but I feel like his is really hard to win as. I feel like his is a good second place character, but it's really hard to pull off number 1. One of the best things you can do is get the Hungry Hyenas, because those ones gain a strength for each hyena in the realm, so you can actually stack those up and get some really cool stuff with that. Okay, so on to number 7, we've got Yzma. Now, in my opinion, Yzma is pretty difficult to win as, but the reason why she's so high up on my ranking is mainly because Emperor's New Groove is a fantastic movie, and the cards attribute to those quotes. You've got Smash It with a Hammer, Wrong Lever, Beware the Groove, A Cruel Irony, and The Path of Righteousness, and The Path That Rocks. And so it's kind of fun to play as her and just get all of those Emperor's New Groove quotes coming out as you're playing. Okay, we're almost done with the middle section and on to the top 5. So we've got number 6 at Hades. So I actually originally had Hades way higher up on the scale. I think he was number 10 or 11, but I recently played as him, and that bumped him down on my scale because his was actually really fun to play as. So you just have to get 3 Titans to Mount Olympus. There are 5 in the deck, so it's pretty easy to get them out. The Fate deck is kind of difficult against him, with Zeus and Hercules especially being against the Titans, but there's some cool combinations you can do. As you can see here, the Chariot is one of my favorite cards in his deck. So if the Chariot's at your location, then you can use him after you do all of your actions. You can then move him and the Chariot to another location and do another action there as long as it's not a Fate action. So that can be really helpful to get another turn in, basically, of sorts, and I really enjoy. So try to get the Chariot out as quick as you can with him. Okay, we're on to the top 5, and who we've got left is Captain Hook, Pete, Ratigan, Dr. Facilier, and Jafar. So number 5 is Jafar. Jafar actually, for me, has been pretty difficult to win as, but his has been very enjoyable. He's actually the first one I ever played as, and I think that's part of the reason why I have him so highly ranked on this scale. So basically, you have to get the magic lamp out and put it over the Sultan's Palace. Before you can do that, you have to play a Scarab Pendant, unlock it, and then you can play the magic lamp. That immediately brings the genie into play. You have to hypnotize him, and then you have to bring the magic lamp over to the Sultan's Palace. Iago is very helpful with that, and as you can see right here, there are 2 activate symbols, and so you can effectively do it every turn as long as it's not blocked by a hero, and that can be really fast that you can move it over, whereas the only other option is this move, and there's only this one. So if you don't use Iago, it's going to be a little bit slower of a process to get the magic lamp over, but I just really find his enjoyable. There's so many moving parts and things with it, and it just makes it kind of fun. Okay, in the top 4, I have Ratigan. Now, some of you may be really surprised about this, but I personally enjoy playing as Ratigan so much. I think it's because of this right here. Ratigan's objective can change, and that kind of can throw in a little bit of a loop for the opponents and make it a little bit confusing as to what you have to do. And so it's really easy to come up with a surprise victory with Ratigan, which is one of the best ways to win, because there's some characters where you have to start your turn with something, and that gives them time to fate you and get rid of some stuff, whereas Ratigan, you have to get the Robot Queen there and start your turn, but if they bring Basil out and they discard the Robot Queen, then all you have to do is defeat Basil. And so if you can do that, you don't have to wait to the start of your turn and you will win. I really, really enjoy playing as Ratigan. Okay, we are in the top 3 villains now, and for number 3 we've got Pete. So Pete, in my opinion, is really fun with all of the different goals. So right here you can see the 5 different goals that there are. You're going to select 4 at random and put them here, and those goals are pretty easy to do. And so it's really fun to play as him and just get those goals completed and keep going. This is also a really fun part of his, is that you play these items at the bottom and now you get extra abilities. So you can play this, for example, at this location, and then you'd be able to pick up 4 power each turn, or you can get an extra card to play, things like that, and that makes it really fun. Okay, top 2. Number 2, we've got Dr. Facilier. I love playing as Dr. Facilier. He is very fun, and I especially love how much you can fate other people with him. I literally played an entire game against my brother-in-law Caleb, who you'll see later, and I fated him every single time, and it was really fun. But Dr. Facilier, you don't really have to worry about power as much with him, which makes it really easy to play all the cards that you want. You have to get the Rule New Orleans and Talisman, and cards will tell cards out fast. And if you do, you can do a surprise victory really fast with him, which makes him really fun and makes it easy to win, in my opinion. Okay, now to the last one, which you can obviously see here, is Captain Hook. So Captain Hook is very, very enjoyable. My brother-in-law is pumping his arm in the background because he enjoys playing as Captain Hook too. So kind of like Pete, as you can see here, there's extra items you can play which give you extra abilities. Those make it really fun and extra things that you can do. Peter Pan has to be played when he's revealed. So when the other people fate you, it hinders you a little bit, but then it also can be helpful because they may have to play Peter Pan. And then one of the best things you can do early on, which is one of my favorite strategies, is to just put a ton of allies to the Jolly Roger, especially because there's some pixie dust that can increase Peter Pan's strength. And so you can just put a bunch of allies here. Boarding Party can do an adjacent one, and you can just, as soon as you get him over, you can vanquish him pretty easy. So that is my ranking of the 15 villains, and I want to know, what are your guys' thoughts? What would your ranking be if you had to rank these 15 villains? Let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear your guys' opinions on that.